And Mikel Arteta can smile and celebrate because they've won the London derby against Chelsea. And they've beaten Chelsea now here for 3 seasons in a row. Gabriel with the only goal today.
In the world of sports, as well as in life itself, there is nothing as inspiring and satisfying as the story of a great resurgence. When an athlete or a team, especially one that has been previously considered one of the very best in the world, slips into a state of decline, the many possible failures and shortcomings that often usually follow bear the risk of burying the confidence, energy, and identity of a squad that at one point exuded all of those traits and many more with minimal effort. The road downhill could be an incredibly dangerous prospect, with many titans of the past, some who many never presumed to be in the positions they currently are, still desperately trying to recapture even a remnants of their glory days many generations ago. And although the road to recovery will more often than not be an uphill battle, the teams and organizations that are able to successfully create a plan to rebuild the structure and culture of their clubs and re-establish their place in the hierarchy of the elite often create a revival of belief and momentum that catapults them all the way to the top. When it comes to Arsenal and their remarkable resurgence back to the very top of the English game, the road to recapturing their identity and dominance has been one that has been cultivated through the many years of heartbreak and disappointment. Since their rise to prominence during the Chapman era of 1925, the Gunners have not only been one of the most successful English clubs in history, but also one of the most progressive and influential. Whilst they had already established themselves as a real heavyweight among the very best in Europe, and more particularly in England since the 1930s, Arsenal would experience perhaps the most significant era in history between the mid-90s and the early 2000s. In 1996, the Gunners would execute perhaps the most significant decision in their history, when they appointed a relatively unknown manager from France who ended up not only changing the culture and lifestyle of the Gunners, but that of the entire English league. Arsene Wenger transformed the club into a goal-scoring juggernaut, adding significant talent to the squad via the import of young French players such as Patrick Vieira, Robert Pires, and Thierry Henry. Between 1996 and 2004, Arsenal would capture 3 league titles and 3 FA Cups, with the 03-04 title being particularly special as the Gunners would finish an entire season without registering a single loss. Powered through the incredible talent and ability of a man quite simply known as the King, Wenger's Invincibles were strongly perceived as a perennial giant in England and a real threat in European competitions. Arsenal's golden age under the Frenchman was so successful that it led them to modernizing their infrastructure and commissioning the birth of a new stadium, one that in hindsight could be viewed as one of the main protagonists behind the Gunners' steady decline. The Emirates cost a whopping £390 million. Financed via a 14-year debt obligation, the Gunners were essentially paying out millions every year to cover their costs. During a time in which Arsenal were competing against one of the financial giants of football in Man United, as well as a Chelsea side who had just been acquired by Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich, the inability to match their competitors in the transfer market led to a big impact on the Gunners' chances to compete with the others on a consistent level. And with another major player entering the equation in 2008, Arsenal would further struggle to keep up in the transfer market as well as keeping a hold of their own talent. They would begin to lose key players to rival teams, and as the year began to pass, Arsenal were continuing to lose crucial figures in the squad as the steady increase in player salary, paired with wealthy competitors who were willing to break the bank to get what they wanted, meant that the Gunners would have to remarkably overperform in order to keep up with the rest. Between 2006 and Wenger's eventual departure in 2018, the Gunners would only win 3 FA Cups, which progressively cultivated a toxic environment around the club, with fans blaming everyone from the owners to the players and ultimately the manager for the decline of the team. Arsenal finished inside the top 4 for 20 successive years, before finishing 5th and 6th during Wenger's final 2 years at the club. His era would ultimately end under disappointing and otherwise embarrassing circumstances for all that were involved, as the final years of his career were shrouded by controversy, protest, and failure. Many fans began to turn on the Frenchman, making it a regular occurrence to use games as an opportunity to call for his dismissal, as well as that of their owners. By the time Wenger had left and the new manager had been appointed, it had been 15 years since the last time Arsenal had won a league title, with many firmly under the impression that the London club just didn't have the financial resources nor the systematic infrastructure to be able to ever make up ground against the top clubs in England and in turn, Europe. And after the departure of Emery just a year later, Arsenal would abandon their pursuit of acquiring another tried and tested manager, but rather elect to hire a relatively inexperienced new coach in Mikel Arteta, a man who established his philosophies and strategy under the tutelage of Pep Guardiola, aiming to create a long-term plan to revive Arsenal as a heavyweight amongst the very best in Europe. From the jump, Arteta would stress the importance of developing an identity for the club, one that begins from the top and funnels all the way down the ladder. He would mention the importance of culture, humility, accountability, and respect, indicating that he wished to transform Arsenal into a confident and dominant side, one that feels more comfortable playing aggressively in their opponent's half rather than conceding to defend for 90 minutes in their own. And it seemed as though his teachings were already getting through to the players, as Arsenal would strike quickly under his reign, securing the club's 14th FA Cup after an incredible run that included wins against both Man City in the semis and Chelsea in the final. However, after 2 back-to-back finishes in 8th place, many within the fan base began to question the potential and skills of the Spaniard, pointing to his lack of experience, as well as his presumed inability to effectively solidify the structure he wished to build, as a reason to doubt his chances of being successful. Whilst many within the fan base called for his resignation, much like they did with his recent predecessors, the Arsenal board decided to remain firm in their choice, choosing to sporadically defend the manager, indicating their intention to everyone that the era of Arteta was just getting started. The Cronkies were no doubt feeling the pressure from the fans and the manager, and it wasn't before long they would open up their wallets and provide the club with real capital to help retool the squad. Arsenal would spend over 150 million euros on transfers in the summer of 2021, opting for young and promising talents such as Ben White and Martin Odegaard, who would end up being dynamic assets on both offense and defense, as well as Aaron Ramsdale, who in short time became the team's first choice keeper as well as a definitive fan favorite. They would follow that with another strong summer of purchases in 2022, acquiring Fabio Vieira, Alexander Zinchenko, and of course, Gabriel Jesus, who in their short time at the club have had a colossal impact on the current form of the team. A string of successful transfers, as well as Arteta's growing influence around the mentality of the club, have effectively created a boost in progression for the Gunners that have propelled them back amongst the very best in England. Through his influence, Arteta has completely transformed the culture of the squad, not only when it comes to the tactical and strategic aspects on the pitch, but also off the pitch, where he's worked to create a family atmosphere within the club and continues to stress the importance of chemistry amongst the team. In a time where players are bemused by the growth of their brands or the decimals within their salaries, the Gunners have managed to climb their way back into the title picture through effectively restarting their culture with a new manager who has opted to restructure a squad with young and impressionable players who are taught to value teammates like family and exemplify their commitment through hard work and dedication. Altogether, the unity and trust that has been cultured at Arsenal, along with their commitment and desire to play the way the manager strategizes, is one that seems to be one of the key elements in their recent resurgence. And it goes without question that the club's recent performances have effectively built the groundwork towards a belief and confidence that was once the backbone of a team that went undefeated on their way to a Premier League title. In the present day, the famous Gunners of North London are top spot in the Premier League table, leading the race against the financial juggernauts of England, essentially defying the odds against almost everyone's expectations. Their journey under their new manager, although still early, is now firmly in action, and it seems as though it's without question now that he is the right man to lead Arsenal into the new age. And only time will tell if their fascinating revival will lead them to silverware. However, regardless if they end the season with or without the league title, the recent resurgence of Arsenal and the elevation of their level through the cultivation of young talent and an improved culture will surely propel the Gunners forward into once again competing for league titles for the foreseeable future.